Good morning, good afternoon. Thank you for joining us. I'm Dean Yarbrough with Yarbrough Financial Services. I'm joined today by my colleague, Curtis Carmichael of
Just a Kid from Ohio Marketing.
And we're joined today with our special guest, Ryan Wilson. Ryan Wilson is the owner, founder of The Gathering Spot here in Atlanta, Georgia. One of the hottest places in the country. When you come to Atlanta, you definitely want to check him out.
Right, I would say North America. The second block.
Maybe I should say North America, yeah. But we're going to talk today about some of the backstory behind how this his idea was birthed and came into creation, and really about entrepreneurship, business ownership in our community, and some of the things that are so vital to understand if you're trying to do business on your own. Curtis, I'm going to let you start this morning with your questions.
Okay, definitely. Once again, like you said, I just want to reiterate, I appreciate you, good friend, my man. So my first question is, I go to Impact Church, I don't know if you heard of it. Pastor Olu, shouting you out. Hope I get a shout out for this. So my first, one of my favorite things you've ever told me was there's things you can do and there's things that you're called to do. Now, one thing that I want to ask you is were you think you were called to do this, or you just something that you were man, I can do this really well. I see there's a missing link in Atlanta. So just can you elaborate on that? Were you called to do this, or can you do this entrepreneurially?
I definitely think that I was called to do it, and there's things that you're being prepared for before you know that you're being prepared to do them. And so my journey is I spent most of my life wanting to be an attorney, and the goal there was I wanted to be an attorney because I thought that was the best way to help people, and I was interested in a lot of social justice issues and really ways to kind of help our community move forward, and that was the avenue that I knew. So that led me to work with a lot of community organizations, which led me to one of the first problems that the business wants to solve is just access to space. I mean, I would go to coffee shops and restaurants with these groups and get a coffee at 8 o'clock, and by 5 o'clock they're looking at you like, time to go. But then past that, right, the passion for the business was really inspired by this idea of community. And what does it look like once you're out of the high school context or undergraduate context? Where do you go to meet people who have different interests, that are from different areas of the country? They're just different overall from you once you're an adult. And I felt called to kind of build a space that could be that other place once you're grown. And so it was one of my college roommates when we started the process of opening the business.
That's powerful. It's interesting. We met with Kareem Manuel a couple weeks ago. He's the owner and founder of We.society. Check him out. You know him too, right?
Absolutely.
Excellent. Okay, good. Really dynamic young man, building a really powerful brand. One of the things that he talked about, I think dovetails into what you were just saying, was this whole how important collaboration has become to him as he's building his business. I want to ask you to speak on that as a business owner.
Sure.
Do you think, what are some of the ways that you've been able to collaborate with other local businesses as well as, I guess, throughout the country to get this vision into reality?
I mean, collaboration is key, and I think particularly in our community, having physical places to be able to do it is important. I grew up in Atlanta, but specifically, I come from a long line of AME preachers, right? And so the church was kind of that primary place to be able to gather and meet with people. I still think it is. There's opportunities for us to create new spaces to do that work. Unfortunately, I think a lot of times what we see is in this day and age is an emphasis on digital connections, and while those can work too in some ways, I think it's still important to have physical places where you can come and collaborate and meet with people. That's really where the work is. If you don't believe me, you can go on LinkedIn and send 1,000 requests. But I think that you'll be much more effective collaborating actually with people if you have a chance to talk to them.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Community.
Absolutely.
Well, both.
Yeah, both. I mean, we're right now sitting right at the intersection of your professional life and your social. And so you'll see activities that are career development, professional development focus, and then right behind it, things that are social. I believe that business kind of happens at that intersection anyway. People do business with people.
Right.
But there's no reason for us to stay on one side of that spectrum or the other. I think the way things are moving is the two worlds are kind of colliding.
So, I mean, just like an event that you guys just had with the Atlanta Tech Startups.
Yeah.
I feel like that's just a great example of what you just said. There's a lot of social, a lot of people just didn't know that there were people that thought like them, sounded like them, acted like them, and they got into a room like this.
Again, it sounds like a basic point to make, but I mean, if you aren't in spaces to be able to actually meet people, it can be really tough to build a network. And again, I think a lot of younger people make the mistake, well, I'll just do that work online. That's online. That's a tool. Those are tools to use, but the work isn't online.
I actually remember the first time I met you was actually in here, and it was still pretty fast. There was not much going on in here, and you guys were playing FIFA. It was like in the event space, and I was like, he was like, man, it's gonna be incredible. It's gonna be like there's a lot of things going on. And I don't know if you remember that. I remember that like it was yesterday, because I was like, now back at X amount of years later, I'm like, he was right. Yeah. Like this is major. Yeah. So just thinking about that, generations before us, they always went like the tailored route of like, hey, I want to start a laundromat. I want to start a retail shop. I want to start this and the third. I know you said like, hey, I want to have a place to gather, but what actually gave you the ability to like think outside the box, of creating something of this stature and actually making it sustainable?
So I mean, I'm fortunate that my parents are entrepreneurs, and so I had that background. And so when I was thinking about business models that were really just remixes of businesses that I had seen before, I knew that the chance to be successful, while still there, it's a lot more risky to do something that hasn't really been done before, but the upside is a lot more. And so we really pushed to try to figure out where is there an opening in the market, and how can we really like not really be married to it. And it didn't hurt the fact that I was 24 when we started this process. So there weren't a lot of rules that I knew to. Yeah, I mean, I used to get this question a lot, but it would be like, how do you have the expertise to do this? And it was like, well, I don't have the training to not do it, right? And instead of framing that inexperience as a weakness, for us it was an asset, because I had never opened a restaurant before, but that meant that I didn't have to follow the traditional rules of restaurants. Co-working was a new thing, so I didn't know who really had a rule book there. And as far as events, we kind of thought about that world in the way that we thought it would be best to do. So I mean, I don't know. I mean, you can't take that point to the extreme. It's important. I mean, we were doing a ton of research at the same time, but weren't really fearful of this. Didn't feel new to us, because there was no like background informing what we were doing. It was a lot of instinct.
Wow, that's interesting. Our community saw a huge explosion, if you will, entrepreneurial.
Yes.
Huge explosion.
Absolutely.
Then Jim Crow came.
Mm-hmm.
That squashed a lot of that energy and not destroyed it.
Intentionally?
Well, yeah, we built cities, we built universities, we saw cities destroyed. I mean, you can go on and on, but it's interesting. And in my generation, we were the first to enter corporate America. Yes. So we got our chance to get in that door, and we've made significant inroads, but they haven't benefited the whole community, per se. My premise is that today we're seeing another explosion. We're seeing this millennial generation emerge. They don't follow the rules. They didn't know how not to follow the rules. Mm-hmm. They read like we've never been. The old story was, you want to keep something from black folk, put it in a book. Mm-hmm. Well, now y'all read. It's called Google, but you read. And that's powerful. The reading, the enthusiasm, the energy, all that becomes a tremendous base for business. So one of the interests I have is how are we effectively taking boomers who are one end of the spectrum, tremendous experience, wealth of knowledge of dealing with corporate America, doing business America, and then blending that with folks like yourself who say, I came out, I didn't have anyone telling me what not to do, and going to the next level where the two are really merging. I see the gathering spot as a model of it. But can you talk about that? Was that a thought when you started this organization?
Yeah, I mean, I really appreciate that interest, and the reason why is that's why I made mention of research, right? Your strategy can't be pure just off of instinct, right? You have to inform it with something, and the experience that generations before us have had, I think one really practical application that I don't know if we take full advantage of, but should more, is you look at just the way the tech community or the startups in general are talked about. It's high growth, which also normally means being highly profitable. Right. So that the fundamentals of the business aren't there. What I was taught, and again, my parents were entrepreneurs, is that at a very basic level, a business has to care for its expenses, right? And so while super fast growth is great, the model has to make sense. That's me leaning on the experiences of businesses where it wasn't hyper growth and just worry about making money later. It was let's figure out how to actually make it work. So that's what we learned from the laundromats and retail stores that have been in our communities, and then like all of the steps that are required to execute on a plan. And I think this generation sometimes tricks itself into building things that just don't have any real long-term value.
That's interesting.
The more we lean and listen, I think the businesses that will create as startups will be better.
That makes sense.
Because our energy won't go anywhere. Our kind of the way we think about things won't change. But what will change is that we will understand the fundamentals that made previous businesses successful.
As well as, might I add, that whole thought, that whole way of looking at business will expand into other areas. And that will have small business start out. A lot of my clients express the ideals of starting a company, and a lot of them don't do anything because they don't have the knowledge.
Most people don't.
Yeah, that's just not really their niche.
Sure.
Okay. But at the end of the day, they're using services, they're buying services, and the trick is, as our business communities grow and expand into the higher the level of knowledge, the higher the level of technology, the more sophisticated we become, the more we can outreach and reach other areas. So, within your world here, are you seeing, do you have any examples, if you will, of that bridging the gap? That's what I like to call it, the boomers working with millennials.
I mean, that's our day-to-day existence here. Our youngest member is 23, I believe, at this point.
Okay.
Oldest member is 88. So almost every day for almost every experience that we host, you'll see the full cross-section of the city. I think one of the mistakes in terms of how people perception of the business, and some of this stems from our age as founders, is that it's just a bunch of young folks that are here. That's not true, right? I mean, we have a series here called Legacy, right, where it's us bringing in people who are even a little bit older to talk about their careers, just how the city has changed. So that series happens about once a month, but it's important for us to do because, one, that's how you preserve our history, but two, the lessons that were learned. Right? There's no point in us recreating some of these wheels.
That's so powerful. Yeah, it is.
And I don't know if there's always a full appreciation for it, but there should be.
That's why we're so excited to be here, because you're doing it. I mean, from the outside looking in, that's what we're seeing. So hats off to you.
Thank you.
Hats off to you. Success. Everybody wants a success story since you've been in this venture.
Success is an interesting concept for me, mainly because I think that the best entrepreneurs that I know, including my parents, don't sit in it for very long. Because if you do, my personal fear is that's kind of your last thing, right? I used to look at my dad is from Fort Smith, Arkansas. So brief story. One of the things that would scare me when we would go back to his hometown was that it almost felt like a lot of his peers were stuck in the year of their college graduation, or their high school graduation. And growing up, it just was scary to me that could be me, right? You know, that the 1982 track championship was kind of where there was the highlight. It was kind of where life almost ended in a way for folks. And so there are moments that I'm proud of, and I mean, at this point, we've hosted, since March of 2016 when the business opened, we've hosted over 5,000 events. I mean, in this season, it's presidential candidates to Drake, to some of the biggest companies in the world, right? And so, and as an entrepreneur, I mean, there's about 100 people that work here, and I'm proud of you know, being able to provide not only just employment, but opportunities that where there's growth potential, and so you know, that's a point of pride. I count that as every bit of that gets me up in the morning as much as any of the other stuff.
That is great.
Which is equally as dangerous to me, because you know, we might get a job, but then that just kind of is the job for forever. I'm passionate about trying to make sure that really at every position, it doesn't really matter what you do, and try to talk to everybody on our team about, I'm not really hiring you for your current job.
That's right.
I'm hiring you for the future job that if we execute appropriately, that job that will be there. So that's a real thing for us as a business that's growing pretty quickly, but it also is just, I think, the mindset that we need to be in when you're working. I mean, I think the cool thing too is that I get the opportunity to hire people that are super capable and talented, but are not always, I mean, even in my case, the first group that get the opportunity, and so you know, we're able to kind of reverse a lot of those narratives.
That's interesting. That's good. That's really good.
So, staying on that with you guys is the A3C buyout, purchase, whatever you might want to call it. I'm like, that was, when I saw that, I was like, oh, this guy is doing something major. Like, I think with other places like Lollapalooza and South by Southwest and even Burning Man, I mean, you can name them all. A3C, that's like, I feel like that should be their bread and butter, and there's no other place that I'd rather be in control of that than you guys. So can you tell us like a little backstory on how that came about? Like, when you guys said like, hey, let's go with this, or what was it brought to you guys?
One of the things that was interesting to me though is that it was exactly what you said. The culture is made here in Atlanta, and we go fly to LA and New York and Austin to go talk about it, right? And it didn't really make sense to me that we didn't have an experience here that was owned by the people that you know, the experience is kind of curated for. And so the opportunity came about to kind of start that conversation, and so we bought the company with Paul Judge in January of 2019. Did A3C this year will be in October, but no, I'm really excited about just everything that and the ambition is to grow that to be a major platform that is Atlanta based, that, you know, gets to showcase what we do here. So that's not talking negatively about experiences that are in other cities, but Atlanta's special, and I think we deserve you know, a couple of days to highlight that specifically.
Definitely. I mean, just someone not from here, like a lot of people who are transplants come to Atlanta. I just heard like, it's just kind of like, wow, like whatever's going on down there is just Atlanta milk and honey. So, and I was just being honest, I was like, man, like I gotta get down there. So that's why when I was so happy to hear that someone like, so like I said, I just want to reiterate, that was a major move, and like
A3C, we're not doing this for anything but that. I'm really excited by the creators and entrepreneurs and filmmakers, really broadly everybody that's interested in just plugging in and connecting with one another. I mean, at the core, everything that you're going to see the Gathering Spot either build or buy will be tied to community efforts. That is actually what the business is about. I think people experience it. our thesis is, look, the business is about community. You build community through work, you build community through dining, you build community through experiences. That's why we do those things. But what the true animating thing across all of this is bringing people together.
Can you share with us what you think your 3, 5, 10-year future looks like?
To quickly double back to A3C, the plan there is to grow that platform to be larger and larger. Hopefully, the attendance numbers every year grow. As it relates to the gathering spot, we are building clubs across the country. So DC is being built right now. We announced LA. Plan all the way. With plans to go to a number of major markets pretty quickly, and then we will also start to see more content come.
That's outstanding. Well, we wish you the best in all of that.
Thank you.
And much success. And maybe next time we speak, we'll do it in DC.
Let's do it.
It's my favorite city. Next to Atlanta. Is there anything that you might want to share with our audience about, the gathering? Or you? Yeah.
I mean, I'm an entrepreneur. At this point, I do this every day, all day. So it's kind of one of the same for the community that's here. And so, if you're interested in learning more about that work, it comes in a lot of shapes and sizes. But come see us here at the club. You can also find us online at thegatheringspot.club or on all social media at The Gathering Spots.
Excellent. Curtis, how can we reach you?
Hey, you already know you can reach me. I'm just a kid from Ohio. That's just a kid from Ohio on all platforms. This is one of my favorite guys right here, Dean Yarbrough from Yarbrough Financial Services. Can you give me
on all social platforms? YFS Planning. It feels good to say that because 2 years ago I didn't even know what that was. And of course, my website is Yarbrough Financial Services, and that's YARBRO, like Yo Bro Financial Services. Thanks again for joining us today. Thank you so much for coming out and sharing your wisdom with us.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
All right.
All right. Thank you so much.